Hello, fight fans. Welcome to episode number 6 of Fight Nerds. I'm a fight nerd. I'm a nerd in general, kind of a dork. My name is Flyin Brian J. With me once again, I'm not going to call him a nerd or a dork or a geek or whatever, but it's Wesley Riddle. What's up, man?
You can call me a nerd if need be, but I'm doing well. Speaking of kind of nerds, I just finished up my junior year of school, which I guess really isn't nerdy because a lot of people go to college. But I finished with my junior year, would be a senior. I'll be a 23-year-old graduate next year, but I don't think years really matter. I'm looking forward to it. Had a pretty decent semester, pretty tough, but I'm looking forward to the summer and always glad to join and hang out and talk.
Hey, man, I was a 22-year-old freshman when I went to school, so don't worry about that age shit. I went to school when I was 18. Then I like to party. I partied a whole bunch, quit, and then I went back when I was 22. So you're going to be a 23-year-old senior? Big deal.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about it. It would have been nice to make a little bit of extra money or to have a full-time job now because I could have been starting. But hey, you know what? It doesn't matter. Get to enjoy college a little bit more. So I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah. Anyway, so fight fans, we're going to go through 3 sections today on the show. First section, we're going to go over Geeked Out, which I thought I was going to change the show title to Fight Geeks, but I don't think that's going to happen for some reasons that are beyond my control. So the name of the show is staying Fight Nerds, but we're still going to go over Geeked Out. We're going to talk about something within the last 7 days that made us geek out. Normally, it's going to be about mixed martial arts, but really, there hasn't been an event or any major mixed martial art thing that happened recently. And then section number 2, we're going to talk about the Ultimate Fighting Championships just announced the next season of The Ultimate Fighter. I think in 15 minutes from right now, probably before you're listening to it, season 25 is happening. Anyway, season 26 of The Ultimate Fighter is going to be flyweight women, and there will be a flyweight champion crowned at the end of the season. And then in section number 3, we're going to go over Fight Nerds questions, which you guys asked me on both Facebook and Twitter, so thank you so much for them. I'll probably put a timestamp down below in case you want to skip all that other stuff and go straight to your questions. You can get right there without much issue. So, Wes, I'm going to actually let you go first. What have you geeked out over in the past 7 days?
Man, this was kind of hard because there hasn't, of course, been that much mixed martial arts or really kind of anything that's happened that's excited me. I could talk about all the different exams I had that had me geeking out because of how difficult they were. But the one thing, this is a little bit random. The college I'm at is called Roanoke College. It's in a little town called Salem, but 10 minutes away, there's a town called Roanoke, and it's probably populated with like 100,000 people. The whole county is probably 300,000. It's pretty big. A lot of people traveling in and out. I think a couple days ago, or maybe more than that, it was probably almost a week ago now, there was a bear, a black bear, a little baby black bear that got loose and somehow ended up in the heart of downtown Roanoke and climbed a tree. And this bear got stuck up in that tree for 4 hours. And the videos of it are just hilarious because people are watching it and just having a grand old time. I think there was also some pretty famous band that came out, and they were trying to take selfies with the bear, like standing a little ways away, trying to take pictures of the bear up in the tree. And then they let this bear out. I think they captured it, let it out in the wild a couple days later. And in the video, you see the bear running, and it makes you think, oh, maybe that bear's running right back to get in that tree. But I thought that was pretty funny. It had me geeking out, watching all the videos, and just the fact it's something that you don't really see too often.
Wes, no one was scared of the bear? They were trying to take selfies? They weren't terrified?
I mean, these people were probably standing, I'd say, maybe less than 50 yards away, but still a decent ways away. They didn't care, man. They were taking pictures and smiling, being like, "There's a bear up in this tree," and all the people were just standing around watching it, recording their own videos. I don't think anybody was really terrified. I think the bear was more terrified of the people than the people terrified of the bear.
I mean, I guess there's that old adage, I don't have to be faster than the bear. I just have to be faster than you. So you stand close to somebody short and chubby. I guess that's short. Stand next to them, and you probably will be faster than them, and you'll outrun that damn bear.
You better make sure you have the right group of friends for that.
I've got some short and chubby friends, sure.
That's same here.
I hope my friends that I hang out with on a regular basis don't like mixed martial arts, so they'll never hear me call them short or chubby. Anyway, so my geeked out for this week, Wes, I love podcasts, and that's one reason why I wanted to do this podcast was because I listen to podcasts all day at my job because they help me get through the day. And ran out of mixed martial arts podcasts that I can listen to that fill up my time. So I started going into other areas. And so this week on my favorite mixed martial arts podcast right now, the co-main event podcast, Chad Dundasso, he suggested that we listen to Crime Town. I had passed by it a few times on the old podcast link or the podcast hub on Apple Podcasts. But since he said to listen to it, I went ahead and listened to it. And it is so gosh darn good, so captivating. I've been geeking out over it. I think I'm 6 episodes deep. They're like 30 to 40 minutes a piece. I started listening to it yesterday afternoon. I got 6 episodes deep, Wes. It starts out and it talks about this mayor. He's getting reelected for like his 4th term. And it also talks about how he burned some guy's eyelashes off and hit him with a burning piece of wood. And people knew about it in Providence, Rhode Island. They knew about it, and they still voted him in for the 4th term. People were saying, you know what? Everybody has their flaws, and I forget his name. It's Bobby something. Even though he has flaws, I think he's still a great mayor. Just mind-fucking-boggling. And it turns out that this town is ran by the mafia, and Bobby the mayor might have got himself intermingled into the mafia, and it is so gosh darn. It's super entertaining, Wes. If you ever get time to listen to a podcast, other than this one, of course, check that fucking thing out. I've been geeking out over it a whole bunch, and also I geeked out over S-Town. I geeked out over Serial, and I just love podcasts. My geeked out this week goes to podcast. Wes, do you listen to any podcasts?
I don't really listen to too many, and I think it's because I've been so occupied with school. But I'd like to be able to pick it up, especially in times I have car trips and maybe in my free time sitting around. I feel like it's something I need to get into a little bit more because I have started to watch a lot more different things kind of in the car. I have an hour and 45-minute drive between my college and my house, and it's just a straight trip. So sometimes I'll put on like the MMA hour, and I'll listen to Ariel Helwani. Sometimes longer ones. I try to find the longer ones, unlike some that maybe just want to listen to like one that's like 20 minutes long. I think it kind of depends.
Yeah, man. The reason why I started listening to podcasts is because, I started listening to podcasts way, way back in the day. I was working shift work at a factory where I was binding books, the most boring fucking job I've ever had in my life. And you weren't allowed to talk to anybody. You got caught talking to somebody, and you might get sent home early. I'm not kidding. So, but you were allowed to listen to headphones. So I started listening to music, and the average song, other than like Freebird and shit, it's 3 to 5 minutes long. So then I could gauge time based on how many songs I'd heard. I'm like, okay, 3 songs have played, so we're talking about 9 to 15 minutes, right? But at this boring ass fucking job, you want time to go by faster. So that's when I discovered podcasts like, I think, the Joe Rogan Experience, the Adam Carolla Show, things like that. And yeah, that's why I listen to them at my current job too. I mean, I love music just as much as the next guy, probably not as much as the next guy, but when they're an hour and a half long and you can just kind of get entrenched in the story and not worry about how much time is passing, that's what I love. And again, that's one reason why I wanted to start this podcast.
I like that. You also mentioned Joe Rogan Experience. I listen to that sometimes too, but it's kind of, for me, I know some people love just watching the show in general. I usually kind of pick and choose episodes. I usually pay attention to kind of the names. So if there's somebody I know or I'm familiar with that's, for example, on that show, on the Joe Rogan Experience, I'll try to listen to it a little bit more. Like Julie Kedzie, I really enjoyed listening to her. She had a really good one back about probably a couple months ago. I love listening to. I pulled it up just to look at some names, but just a bunch of different guys. Eddie Bravo is somebody I always enjoy. There's also a lady, Justin Rensgood, a lady who talks about medicine, and she's very, very informed and just unbelievably talented at what she talks about, and just has so much knowledge, and she's fantastic. I wish I could see her name, but we can definitely move on. But she's somebody, it all kind of depends. Rhonda Patrick is her name. She's somebody I really like to listen to as well.
Let me write that down quick because I'm gonna check it out. I too sometimes look for the names on the Joe Rogan Experience, but sometimes I found like people that I've never heard of. I think the last guy I listened to was an historian. I forget his name, but I really enjoyed listening to him, except for I usually skip over the parts. And this is nuts because I'm a fight fan. We're both fight nerds. This is what we're talking about. But I usually skip over when he talks about mixed martial arts with his guests, because a lot of times his guests have no fucking clue what's going on. Like I listened to a guy one time who kept wanting to talk about mixed martial arts, but he had no idea who somebody like Frankie Edgar or Benson Henderson was. And I'm like, really, fucking guy? You're trying to talk about this with the commentator and you don't know these fucker people's name? So I hate that, but I like when they talk about interesting stuff. When James Hetfield, the lead singer of Metallica, was on there, they talked about bees for like an hour, and I was like captivated by it. I mean, I Googled bees after that. I talked to my girlfriend after work for like a half hour about fucking bees.
Joe Rogan has some wild theories. I love it. He'll start talking about something that not anybody would just have a normal conversation about, let alone have a conversation about it for 30 plus minutes. And the way he's able to I don't know, engulf you and feed you the knowledge that he knows is just, it's unbelievable. I love listening to the man speak.
And even when he disagrees with his guest or whatever, he never like attacks them for their beliefs. He's like, oh yeah, that's interesting that you believe that. Tell me why you believe that. Explain that more to me. And I like how it doesn't ever get confrontational.
Yeah, I think it's kind of always open for conversation, and that may also be one reason why we hear so much diversity in the conversations that he has. Because I mean, he's almost at 1,000 different Joe Rogan Experience episodes, so I mean that's tremendous, and he's talked about probably by now thousands and thousands of different topics, which is just truly unbelievable.
Yeah, and for like 4 to 5 fucking hours at a time. Like what?
and in a row, there are very rare times I can't even recall of any where he's got up and had to go or like answer a phone call or go use the bathroom.
Yeah, take a piss. What, this guy got a catheter?
He might have one underneath the table. You never know. But I mean, he's always there, and I mean, I really enjoy that man. I think he's a great person. Somebody I would love to meet one day.
Yeah, I'd do a kettlebell workout with him as long as he brought the kettlebell. I want to do the one with the gorilla face.
I like that.
Anyway, so that was Geeked Out. A lot of conversation. Let's move on to section number 2. But Wes, I think that Google has done, I'm pretty sure, yeah, they've done away with those cool transitions that I had. So instead, we'll just go next segment. Now, let's talk about The Ultimate Fighter 26. So can you believe there have been 26 of these motherfuckers?
Honestly, not. I wish they would kind of slow down with the pace, but I mean, I guess whatever you can do to get a little bit of viewership and make a little bit of extra money. But, man, they're flying through with these episodes. Seasons, I should say.
Seasons. There's episodes in the season, so there's even more episodes than there are seasons.
That is true.
Yeah, probably like 15 times more.
Yeah, I guess I did cover it by that.
Yeah, fuck. Anyway, so Wes, are you interested at all in The Ultimate Fighter Season 26, where there will be 125-pound women between the ages of 21 and 34 with a winning record, at least 3 professional fights? They're invited to attend an open casting in Las Vegas on May 23rd, and the season will also be open to females of the current UFC roster that can successfully make 125 pounds throughout the duration of the season. Are you hyped?
I missed the announcement, but I did. I mean, I already catched it before we started the show. I like it. Okay, I like the move. I really think that 125-pound weight class was needed because there are numerous different women that are competing at flyweight that should not be in that weight class because they just really struggle with the weight cut. I guess Valerie Letourneau was a great example. Paige Van Zandt could definitely.
You mean strawweight, right, Wes? Sorry, they're competing.
Strawweight, yeah.
Okay.
What did I say? Probably something else.
I think you said that they're struggling to make flyweight, but anyway, sorry to jump in.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you did. They're struggling to make strawweight, and the three I can think of were Valerie, who's now in Bellator, but 2 others in the UFC are Paige Van Zandt, hasn't struggled as much, but one that has is Joanne Calderwood. And I think that those 2 are probably going to be people that you may see try out for that season and probably make it, people that are currently on the roster. I don't really know too much of the specifics. I do like the move. Just kind of question the maybe they think I didn't really watch the first season that happened back when Carla Esparza won, and she became the UFC champion, surprisingly. But I don't really know if this is going to be as successful because I just don't really know. I'm taking a look at the roster of women's flyweights, and just not too many. I'm familiar with quite a bit of them, but I feel like they're less familiar than the people that competed on the season of the strawweights that were there. So interesting move.
I think. Oh, excuse me. I think I'm a little bit more excited for the women that aren't at 115 pounds currently, that aren't in the UFC currently. I don't know if Andrea KGB Lee could make 125 pounds on a weekly basis like they want, but that girl, she's a decent looking girl. She's a blonde, just like Paige Van Zandt is. She's super marketable. I think her last victory, well, her last two victories are finishes. I didn't get to see her last one, but the one before that was a first round TKO stoppage for Invicta, streamed on UFC Fight Pass. So I think she's marketable. She's got a fun style. She wears a cowboy hat, you know, she's really lengthy. She's a good striker. She's like a female 125-pound Donald the Cowboy Cerrone. I think that she would be super marketable on there. And Roxanne, the Happy Warrior Modafferi. Now, she wasn't on the flyweight season. I believe she was on a bantamweight season. Maybe I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong.
You're right. She was on the bantamweight. And the first round she submitted, I actually think it was Valerie. And then the second round, she lost to Raquel Pennington.
Right. And so she is currently, according to Tapology, the number 3 ranked women's flyweight in the world. And I asked her on Twitter, I hope she gets back to me. She has a record of 20-13. I'm wondering if she could make weight consistently and if she would go out for the Ultimate Fighter again. And you're thinking, why would she do the Ultimate Fighter twice? Why would James Krause do the Ultimate Fighter twice? And here, this little fun fact. I think they're from like the same area. They're both from Missouri, I'm pretty damn sure. But here's a caveat, Wes. Both Roxanne and Andrea KGB Lee are scheduled to fight on Invicta on UFC Fight Pass on May the 20th. And the tryouts are the 23rd. Another fighter who I'm interested in perhaps being able to make this show and make 125 pounds consistently is challenging for the women's flyweight. No, I did it too. The women's strawweight championship in 10 days, and that is Jessica Andrade.
Man, I think the timing's really well, and I feel like that they may have planned it on purpose for that. I'm looking too. I have Tapology as well. Andrea Lee is a good name. Roxanne Modafferi is a good name. Two marketable people. So imagine having both of them on there. Let's say Jessica Andrade gets on there. Paige Van Zandt and maybe Joanne Calderwood. There's 5 people, or maybe I said 6, right there on their own. Jennifer Maia, she's always been kind of at the top, defeating a lot of pretty notable names. Another talented fighter. Rin Nakai, she also fights, and she's on a 3-fight win streak. Imagine freaking Rin Nakai back in the UFC. I would honestly love. I would love it too. I mean,
I would just want her to come in one of those goofy fucking outfits, and also bring a cup of soup, a costume with her. Oh, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, I guess if you're watching and you don't know what we're talking about, all you have to do is go to YouTube and search Rin Nakai, and you'll probably find some really interesting stuff, interesting stuff to keep you occupied for about an hour.
It's like, it's not softcore porn, but it's like one step more PG than softcore porn. That's what you're going to get if you Google Rin Nakai, and you're thinking, ooh, rubbing your hands together like, yeah, I like the sound of this. No, it's not good. It's not great.
It may be more PG rating, but man, it's more awkward.
It is awkward, man. It is, but
I guess it's a cultural thing.
Maybe she probably doesn't speak English, so that might not sell well on the Ultimate Fighter. But man, I would be
still.
I
think a lot of people know who she is, so I think having her on there would probably do pretty well.
Okay, so you think a lot of people know who she is? Do you think that the Ultimate Fighter is marketing toward casual fans or hardcore fans?
Probably. I think what they're doing is going to go for a mix. because I personally think, and I have a feeling that we may see Paige Van Zandt and Andrea Lee both on the season. And I think that if they can do both of them, they just have a style and characteristics that can. Now, people already know who Paige is. People don't know Andrea. But Andrea, for example, has something that I feel like fans who are casual would really like to see. So I think it's just that cowboy kind of personality, just a laid back, brawly kind of fighter. She's a girl, so she can kind of attract some more of the female fans and probably the casual fans too that are just getting into it. I think it'll be a good mix of people, and I think in all this is going to be beneficial.
I fully expect Paige Van Zandt to give some super awkward, like quasi-sexual video real soon about, hey guys, joining the Ultimate Fighter. Join me May 23rd. Yeah, it's real good. Right? Don't you think?
After that Reebok shenanigans, I wouldn't be surprised, but honestly, it's fine by me.
And then Q, what the fuck's his name? The Funk Master, not the Funk Master. Funky Ben Askren, Q his rendition of it, and then also at MMA State of Mind doing his rendition of it. Oh, hilarious stuff in the MMA world lately.
The greatest sport in the world, man.
A lot of things happening outside of the cage lately that are a lot of fun, but also some things. I'm transitioning here if you can't tell. Let's move right into George St. Pierre. He said the other day that he might see Madison Square Garden for his next fight. He's like, hey, I'll see you soon. The next time the UFC is going to New York, to Madison Square Garden, is, I believe, I want to say, I'm going to throw a random date out, Wes, and then while you're talking, I'm going to check it out. But November 8th, I think, is the next time the UFC is going there. And so he's hinting at maybe that's when he's going to fight Michael the Count Bisping. Now, okay, that's all well and good, but it kind of pisses me off a little bit. I'm a little bit annoyed because that will be 13 months since the last time that Michael Bisping defended his belt. And when that fight happens, it will be 2+ years since the last time a true contender got a title shot in the middleweight division.
Yeah, I kind of question some of the moves, especially that they're doing with middleweight, just because I feel like that I completely like the move in some ways because GSP is very, very notable. By casual and hardcore fans, of course. I think it'll be great seeing him come back. Just kind of question where he's going to be in his fighting style because of ring rust could be a factor. But I just kind of thinking about it, and I feel like anybody can attest, and I know the reasons why that he is getting the shot. I don't think it's fair. And I feel like we've kind of talked about this before, and it's a pretty popular topic. But I feel like it's just gone a little bit away from – quote that, let's say, Dana White said back in the very beginning, do you want to be an Ultimate Fighter? Instead of saying that line, do you want to be the UFC champion? I feel like now it's just kind of, you have to, we said it last week, you have to have the personality to kind of be in that shoe if you're wanting to come back and be on top. And I feel like in the situation that we're seeing, GSP, of course, is a notable fighter. I feel like now he's just kind of right back up there, even though he really hadn't done too much. But there's still numerous guys. I see you smiling. I'm curious to see if you maybe don't agree with me.
I was honestly reading a comment from Art Bell. He said that your Virginia Tech cap is secret code for Van Zandt. And then he said
I love that.
And then he said that I'm trying to tough up his look to look like Luke Thomas because of my facial hair and division. I don't know what he's saying with the division of USADA, but so yeah, I mean, I honestly wasn't paying attention too hard there.
That's fine. I was kind of rambling, then I took a glance and you were smiling, and I was like, man, maybe he doesn't agree with me on this. But I just to take it back, I was saying, like, I feel like we've kind of stepped away from just the aspect of the competition. I feel like it's just more now, if you're a name, you're going to be able to get the shot if you kind of beg for it. I feel like now all these fighters, every single one of them is trying to ask for, of course, the money fights, which we'll talk a little bit about later. But I feel like it's now just, I need the title shot right now. But in the middleweight division, we just have such a clusterfuck that not anybody's really getting that chance.
a huge clusterfuck, man. There are people that get mad at me for saying, "Oh, why are you so mad at Michael Bisping for taking these money fights?" Look, I'm not mad at Michael Bisping for taking the money fights. If somebody were to offer me money at all, I'm taking the fucking money. Well, I'm mad at the WME, IMG. I'm mad at Dana White. I'm mad at the UFC. Middleweight is my favorite fucking division, and we haven't had a person in like the top 4 challenge for the belt in 2 years. Meanwhile, contenders are stacking up and stacking up and stacking up. Jacare probably deserved a title shot before getting mollywopped by Bobby Knuckles, Robert Whittaker, which, by the way, you're going to end up accepting that nickname, Robert Whittaker. And then Robert Whittaker probably deserves a title shot. And Yoel Romero, Wes, he's the best fucking middleweight in the world, right?
I personally believe so. Some people can definitely disagree and be like, "Oh, well, he's cheated." Well, he probably has.
He got acquitted.
He he's at the place he is now. Nobody ever did anything about it. He never got caught. Therefore, he's I think he's one of the best. I think he is probably the best.
Right now, if Yoel fought GSP, who you picking to win?
I'd probably pick Yoel because I'm more confident in his abilities having seen him recently than being unaware of what GSP could possibly do.
Michael Bisping versus Yoel Romero. Right now, who you picking?
Yoel Romero.
Who would you pick
I was gonna
to beat
say
Yoel Romero?
To beat Yoel,
Yeah.
I would probably say out of all the fighters in the division, it would probably be somebody that has the best cardio, and I think one of the guys that has the best is Robert Whittaker. And I am a little bit biased. I'm a huge Robert Whittaker fan. He's my favorite. I like Bisping. He's always been a guy I've really appreciated, but Robert Whittaker is probably one of my favorite fighters on the roster and ever in the UFC. But I do think he has the capability of carrying out a full 5-round fight and being there until the end.
And his output is going to be way bigger than Yoel Romero's. I mean, look, Yoel has been losing multiple fights on his incredible streak here where he gets a finish in the 3rd round. So if Bobby Knuckles doesn't get finished in the 3rd round, I think that Robert could win a decision or perhaps finish Yoel in the later rounds because Yoel does not have the best cardio. But I still would be picking Yoel Romero to win that fight. What I'm saying here is I'm dancing around it. I just definitely think that Yoel Romero is the best fighter at 185 pounds in the world. Next thing that I'm annoyed about is that GSP has never competed at 185 pounds. And yeah, I get it. He's a legend, but he's just coming in here and he's getting a title shot. That too is annoying. Now, there's been a lot of people talking about maybe since that fight, GSP versus Bisping is going to happen, or we think it's going to happen in November, that maybe Yoel goes up and fights Daniel Cormier. What do you think of that? Bullshit? Wolf tickets?
I like it stylistically. I think it's a really interesting fight. I just feel like they're trying to get creative now. But I do like it. I mean, I'm not opposed to anything. I really appreciate any kind of fights. And that would be something I would definitely watch. I feel like everybody would want to watch it.
Yeah, that's true. I am conveying an extreme, not urgency, but passion about it. And I do care about the matchups. I think every fight fan that would possibly listen to the show has definite strong feelings about aspects of the fight game, about mixed martial arts, about mostly the UFC. I wouldn't be opposed to Yoel Romero fighting DC. And yeah, I would love it. I would watch it. It could headline a fight card. And I'm a little bit annoyed at John Jones because of all that he's done, because I can't trust, like Dana White says, he can't trust Khabib the Eagle Nurmagomedov to make it to the octagon to face Conor McGregor, so they can't make that fight. I don't trust John Jones to make it to the octagon to fight Daniel Cormier.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's one reason why I'm kind of wondering, and you probably are too, who Daniel Cormier is going to face next. And I feel like, I mean, Jimmy Manuwa, of course, is an option. But
I think they're just setting up Jimmy Manuwa for a backup. Do you remember when Conor McGregor was scheduled to fight Jose Aldo the first time, and then Chad Mendes came in on short notice and he was kind of out of shape? Well, I think people had speculated that Chad Mendes was on retainer. You know, he was the backup for that. perhaps that's what they're doing with Jimmy Manuwa. Like, stay ready, bro, just in case dipshit John Jones fucks up again. We'll just slide you right in.
I think that's a safe call because I do think Jimmy Manuwa was earned and put himself in a good position for that shot. But I think it's good strategy if that is something. If we were with the UFC, we just created a great plan. So if they haven't come up with that yet, hopefully they're listening to this exact piece of our video so they can get that prepared just in case. But I would definitely love to see John Jones versus Cormier, the rematch.
I do think the UFC is doing what I said. They're bringing in Manuwa to perhaps slide in. Cormier's cutting promos. They brought him to the last event where Cormier beat Rumble Johnson and yada yada. Anyway, let's move on to a next topic I want to talk about that's been in the news lately. We could always talk about Conor McGregor versus Floyd Money Mayweather, and I don't really want to do that, but we're still going to talk about Conor McGregor a little bit in that his nemesis, Nate Diaz, there was speculation that he was going to get booked against Tony El Cucuy Ferguson, perhaps for another interim belt. We're just throwing them out like they're candy at a parade. But anyway, Nate, was he on the Fortnite? The Dundasso calls it the Fortnite. Anyway, was he on the MMA Hour? I think he was. Anyway, he had an interview with Ariel Helwani, and he said right now he is in triathlon season. And if the UFC wants him to fight Tony Ferguson at UFC 213, basically, I'm paraphrasing, they need to get out those big-ass checkbooks and pay him what he's worth.
I missed the interview that they had, so I don't really know what happened. I also didn't really know too much. Actually, I did. I take that back. I didn't know if the fight had been scheduled or not between Nate Diaz and Tony Ferguson. I'm probably not. I've been out of the loop the past 2 weeks with mixed martial arts. I've been worrying about myself a little bit too much with all these finals I've had, but I did hear about it, and I feel like there was a little bit of talk too on just kind of the sides, the back and forth that you hear between the two. I think Tony Ferguson was saying that Nate Diaz declined the fight, that he wanted the bigger fight, and Tony was saying at least that he thinks he was ducking. And I don't know if we talked about this last week or not. Did we?
Yeah, just a little bit when we touched on it, because last week was when Tony Ferguson he didn't tell it to Nate Diaz, obviously. There's hardly any talk face-to-face with fighters, but if through social media or through an interview or something, Tony Ferguson said to Nate Diaz, if you don't want the fight, I want you to say it publicly.
Right, and I guess Nate didn't say anything about that.
He didn't say anything until what we're talking about now.
And I feel like I also saw something about Nate wanting the winner of Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather, looking for all those big money fights, I guess, and I think that would be in boxing.
Man, that sounds like a little bit of clickbait to me.
Well, it was ESPN, so I could definitely say that is clickbait.
Those fucks.
And I'll say this too: the only thing that people like ESPN and Fox Undisputed, all they talk about is that freaking fight, and that fight still might not happen, and they don't talk about either or any of the 400 plus fighters on the roster in the UFC that are probably worth more mentioning about. And that's one thing that's kind of always frustrated me. But getting back to it about this, I think I would like to see Nate fight. Maybe I think the Ferguson fight makes sense. I don't know if you agree with me, but I feel like that just the fact that Khabib kind of lost his chance that last time when he was going to fight Tony. Now that's not going to happen. They could have rescheduled that, but I feel like Nate might be a decent option to pair up there.
I have to come in here with some breaking news a little bit. I'm looking at MMA Junkie, so they're maybe a rival to MMA Mania, but whatever. I found this article, and it is basically Twitter's reacting to The Ultimate Fighter Season 26 being announced. And here are some women who are interested in the division. Jessica I, blonde fighter. What the fuck's her real name? That's the dumbest nickname ever. I forget what her real name is. Anyway, I'll find it.
Is it Caitlin Chukagian?
Yeah, Chukagian. So Jessica I, Caitlin Chukagian. Good job on that, Wes, by the way. Lauren Murphy, nice. Beck Rawlings. Angela Hill says that JoJo Calderwood's probably foaming at the mouth. Carla Esparza tweeted about it, but maybe she's just I don't think Carla Esparza is going to do it, but anyway, so definitely JoJo, Beck Rawlings, Lauren Murphy. I thought she was too big for this division. Caitlin Chukagian and Jessica Ai. What do you think of that?
I think it's an interesting mix, and I think it would help boost the viewership a little bit.
Maybe that could get Jessica Ai a win finally. What is she on? A 3 to 4 fight losing streak? And check this shit out. So Jessica Ai and Lauren Murphy were going at it on Twitter for a while, right, Wes? Now we're going to put them in a house together. Hoo-hoo, fireworks.
And we need that fireworks, man. I think it would really help with the dynamic and make it more interesting of a show worth watching, because I kind of wish I did watch the first season of the Strawweights, because there was some big animosity between Ronda Marcos and then the crew between, I guess it was Tisha Torres, Felice Herrick, and Carla Esparza. So I would love to definitely see some heat. Also, I think I may be wrong, but I feel like the other day I saw Junkie report Jessica Ai has a fight with Invicta fighter Aspen Ladd, who's undefeated as a professional. I'm not really sure if that was confirmed by the UFC, but I know it was a report because they were talking about something about – now, actually, oh, wait, hold up 1 second. They were talking about a couple days ago on Twitter, they were tweeting about something in May, or maybe it was June, but something coming up in May. Maybe they already had heard about the tryouts, and maybe both of those girls are anticipating trying out for that season. So I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there too. But then again, they may be fighting. I'm not really sure on that.
Solid insight, Wes. Yeah, maybe perhaps the Aspen Ladd's going to be on there as well. She's a pretty small girl, isn't she? Oh, wait,
she's small and young and really talented. She competes in strawweight, I believe.
Okay, maybe so yeah, she could definitely make the weight consistently. What I'm worried about is somebody like Lauren Murphy consistently making 125 pounds. I thought she was a big 135er.
I thought she was too.
But her tweet was, Lauren Murphy plans on winning this.
Oh, that's a big statement for being 1-3 in the UFC. But she could. I mean, you never know how people are going to perform in different weight classes. It's just a completely different dynamic of your abilities and your and everything.
One of those losses for Lauren Murphy was a complete and utter fucking robbery, though, right?
Honestly, I don't remember. I think it was Liz Carmouche fight, but also the Mckagian. I was looking at
it wasn't Chukagian. It was a fight where she was on her back the whole time, but she landed
Sara
like 3.
Mcmann.
Yeah, she was on her back the whole time, but landed like 3 jillion strikes to Sara McMahon's like 4.
I compared Mcmann. I compared Mcmann with Chukagian. I said Mckagian. My bad on that one, but I think they're making good moves. I would definitely. I think we're going to see quite a bit of fighters on the roster who think they can make that weight class tryout, but it better not be like a Hector Urbina situation, because, for example, he tried out for that show, and I wonder if he didn't even think he was going to make that weight, and maybe he knew coming in. So these fighters have to be 100% confident that they can make that weight, because then it's going to fill up a spot on the roster that somebody else that maybe already competes at 125 pounds could do, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm struggling to find these damn stats. I'm just stuck on these Lauren Murphy versus Sara McMahon stats, because I thought Lauren Murphy got fucked. Anyway, here in a second, we'll probably transition into Fight Nerds questions. So if there are any questions from the viewers, listeners on YouTube right now, throw them in the comment section, and we will try to get to them. Stats. I can only see the main event. Oh, nope, here we go. Let's see. Yeah, Lauren Murphy landed 193 strikes to Sara McMahon's 64. So, okay, fights are scored round by round. First round, Lauren Murphy, 62, Sara McMahon, 26. Round 2, Lauren Murphy, 48, Sara McMahon, 22. Round 3, 83 for Lauren Murphy, 16 for Sara McMahon. Some bullshit.
That's wild. I actually specifically remember I was coming back to school, and I missed that card because Owen St. Preux fought Ryan Bader in the main event, and I missed Ross Pearson knock out Ray Maynard. But I honestly remember that card. And I did hear that fight was controversial.
A fucking 130 more strikes and you lose the fight. Anyway, so Lauren Murphy should maybe 1-3 in the UFC, but that was a controversial decision loss to somebody who has a fucking shit ton of steam in the women's bantamweight division in Sara Mcmann. But let's transition again. Let me think of something. Bing, 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 bing. Transition. Let's go into Fight Nerds questions. Wesley, I'll go with the first one. This one is coming from Facebook. Adam Lawson asks, why do you think Germaine de Randamie has been so silent since winning the belt against Holly Holm?
I feel, honestly, I don't really know. She went off after winning the belt a couple days later, talked on the MMA Hour. I listened to her speak. She was very, very composed. Felt really bad for kind of the controversy that happened in that third round. And I know there's still split opinions on that, but I've watched Germaine fight, and she's never been that kind of person, and she's always been a pretty respectable individual, especially in the way that she speaks and presents herself. So I kind of wonder – I know what happened, and I feel like she did have, of course, in the heat of the moment. But going away from that, think what you want to think. She has been quiet, and I think we also saw something about her maybe a couple of weeks ago talking about, or at least there was some speculation of her contemplating retirement, which I'm not really sure, and I feel like that's kind of where we heard her again. But she has been pretty quiet, pretty quiet, and I wonder what she's been up to. I think we did hear a little bit of stuff too about the Cyborg thing and how Cyborg turned down 2 fights, but and now we're hearing Cyborg might fight Megan Anderson. So honestly, I'm not really sure what's up with her, and I wonder if you know anything more than I do.
I don't know anything more than you do, but I have strong opinions, I guess. I think Germaine de Randamie is a dirty, rotten cheat. She hit Holly Holm, 3 times after the bell? Got a warning each time. That's some fucking bullshit. So I think that she's just scared of Cyborg Justino. Look, she was ready to give an immediate rematch to Holly Holm after that fight was over because it was somewhat controversial. Not real controversial. I think Germaine won on points, but I was super pissed off about those strikes after the bell. So she was ready to give Holly Holm an immediate rematch. And then all of a sudden, they're like, hey, instead, you're going to fight Chris Cyborg Justino. And she's like, oh, shit. Oh, actually, my hand, I think I need a little bit of surgery on this hand. Holly Holm, though, hand's good. Cyborg, hand hurts a little bit. Come the fuck on. You ain't fooling anybody. So I think that she's been quiet because she doesn't want to get obliterated by Cyborg, which, I mean, that's fine. I don't blame her for that. And I think that Megan is a little bit crazy for wanting to fight her, but props to the cojones on that Australian lad. Really. Darkness Walking says Iron Lady versus Cyborg, at least it makes sense in the nickname department. Yeah, Iron Lady, Cyborg. Yeah, a lot of metal happening in that octagon. Anyway, Wes, let's move to the next question. I'm going to hand it off to you for that one.
Let me pull it up real quick. I had the guys chat up, and the next question that we have comes from Adam Lawson, who has hashtag, of course, Fight Nerds. When do you think that George St. Pierre versus Bisping will happen? We kind of talked about that a little while ago, but do you have an idea about when you think that fight might go down?
Yeah, I have a really good idea. I actually looked at Wikipedia earlier to see when the next trip for the UFC is going to Madison Square Garden. It's not on Wikipedia. I think I heard that it was around November 8th, but Adam, go back down into the heart of this episode, somewhere in the middle, and I talked about it a little more. But what do you got, Wes?
I'm checking out the roster as well, or not the roster, excuse me, the schedule for upcoming events. And I guess the only a couple ones that I see that stand out are probably the biggest one, which is UFC 216. It's in Alberta, Canada. And I feel like there wouldn't be anything better than having George St. Pierre return in a title fight in Canada, surrounded by so many people that respect him and know who he is as an athlete, including people that are just walking down the streets because he's such a big and notable athlete in general, which is a lot of potential. So I feel like that fight would be really good maybe for that card in terms of the marketing aspect.
Hey, he's real big in Canada, eh?
Hey.
Next question comes from MMA on the Rocks, my friends Jeff and Bill. They have a podcast where they talk about drinking, talk about fights. So if you love drinking and fights, check out MMA on the Rocks. Anyway, their question is, you get into a bar fight. There are 10 guys No, we get into a bar fight with 10 guys. You get 3 fighters to have your back. Who do you pick? What I'm guessing here, Wes, is it's you and me, these 3 fighters against 5 other dudes, maybe. Anyway, who are you picking for your 3 teammates fight that are fighters?
Man, I could go somebody like BJ Penn and Juliana Pena, but that's because I know that they could win a bar fight because I think they have a little bit of experience with it.
Good one, Wes.
Kind of take no disrespect, but they have been in bar fights before. It would be good to have a little bit of people with experience, as it would for for anything else. But being a little bit more smart with my picks and thinking about maybe a little size, having a little bit of an advantage with that, I'd probably go with some of the bigger guys. And I feel like there's so many guys I could come up with, but I'm gonna go with my 3 picks for on my team. I'm gonna go Yoel Romero because I know he can just wreck shit if he needs to. That guy is a monster and could definitely go off. So he's on my team. I'm gonna go somebody a lot bigger. I'm gonna go Cain Velasquez because that SOB is a freaking giant and could definitely mean mug a couple guys and maybe scare off 2 or 3 of the fenders, which would help us in that aspect. So I'm gonna take Cain, and the 3rd pick I will have. I'm gonna go with. I want to say Bobby Knuckles, but again, I'm biased in that regard. I'm gonna go Stipe. I love Stipe. I know he's another heavyweight, but I think people would underestimate him and be like, "Hey, you're a firefighter. You're not a mixed martial artist." And then all of a sudden, pop, unconscious. Those are my 3.
Those are some good picks. I'm gonna put my 3 up against your 3, and I'm going with actually your 3 will probably beat my 3, but I'm going with them anyway. Number 1 pick of my draft. This is going to surprise most of you, but I saw someone else tweet it. They took it away from me. I didn't want to respond to them, but number 1 pick for me on the Flyin squad is Mike Platinum Perry. Why? He wrecks shit just like Yoel Romero, but he's also got some screws loose. The man is insane. He probably brought a knife to the bar fight, and he's on my team. I want that insanity. Number 2. For the same reason why you picked Cain Velasquez, I'm picking Francis the Predator Ngannou. They see that man, and they no longer want to fight us. Pick number 3, I'm really, really waning on this. I mean, obviously, most people are going to pick the heavier weight classes, but who else is kind of a lunatic? Wes, who else is kind of a lunatic on the UFC's roster?
John Jones.
John Jones would be fun to party with. We're probably partying with him at the bar. I'm real wound up, real wound tight because I've been hanging out with him a lot.
Probably. I'm trying to think of lightweight or not lightweight, light heavyweight.
Well, if he hadn't retired, I might bring Tim Kennedy because he has guns and shit. So he's just going to scare them off with those 2. But okay, all right, we're going to leave weapons out of it, even though Mike Perry's got a knife in his pocket. I'm going to go with Mike Perry, Francis Ngannou, and you know what? I'm going with Jorge Masvidal. He's used to street fights. He was a high-level street fighter, and he's doing really well in UFC's welterweight division. He's got a fight coming up in 10 days against Damian Maia. Anyway, next question.
I believe it's your turn. I'm not really sure. Is it my turn? Yeah, it's actually your turn.
Just ask the 3 fighters.
You're right. Man, I'm out of it. The next question that we have comes from TTA M. Hodge, asking the question, #HorseFightNerds. Do you think that Nick Diaz deserves big money fights?
Deserves and gets are 2 separate things, of course. But I'm going to go with yes. And the reason why I'm going with yes, he deserves them, is a little bit because I want him to have them. Number 2 is because I don't want him to have fights that are going to get him towards the ranks of a welterweight or a middleweight title shot. This guy has a specific skill set that's exciting for fighters to watch. He's got a specific demeanor and character, attitude that people like to watch. So why put him in there with somebody like GSP who's going to lay and pray him? We need to put him in there with other exciting fighters, and whether that be money fights or not, big name fighters, I want him in there getting exciting fights. People that are going to, that maybe they'll go for some takedowns, maybe they'll play some jiu-jitsu game, but they're not just wet blankets. And most of all, of course, I want him to fight people who are going to basically have a kickboxing match with the occasional grappling exchange. What do you think, Wes?
I definitely agree, man. I also enjoy him. I like the fighters that can not just get me hyped because of their skill set, but get me hyped because they're there to fight and they're not going to back down. And he's one of those fighters that I have so much respect for because he is a fighter that has no quit and will take whatever, besides the big money fights, or excuse me, besides the smaller fights, he'll take whatever he can get. But I really enjoy him. I do think that he should get the big money fights because he's a guy that I feel like a lot of people want to see fight, and somebody I want to watch fight again sometime soon because he hasn't fought since January 2015 after the Silva fight, and before that it had been a couple of years before he had fought GSP, and then debatably beat, I guess in a sense, Carlos Condit, even though he didn't get the decision victory in that one. What did people say, 1-2-5 or something like that? I didn't see the fight when that happened, but something like that. I like Nick Diaz. I like Nate too. Just the Diaz bros in general. 209.
Next question comes from Rob at Gorby181. He asks, well, I'm going to censor it. He says, why hasn't McNugget defended his belt? So why hasn't Conor McGregor defended his belt? He is the longest reigning champ with no title defenses. I think that's false. But anyway, Wes, what's your answer? Why do you think Conor McGregor hasn't defended his titles?
I think he's just really I wouldn't say he doesn't want to compete. And also he's in a situation now to where he's having a kid. And I guess the kid's already come. Am I correct by saying that?
I don't think the kid has. I don't think it's arrived yet, Wes.
I think they even went to the hospital too recently. But I guess he has had some stuff in his personal life recently. So I do understand kind of the situation that he's in now. There was, of course, that time when he had beat Jose Aldo where he was fighting Nate Diaz instead of defending his belt and then fought Eddie Alvarez. But, I mean, I don't really know. And I feel like it's kind of because of just the way and that he is. I feel like whatever he asks for, he's able to receive in a sense if he kind of forces his way into the position. But I like Conor, and I think it's just his personality. I feel like if he didn't have that personality, he'd kind of be in the position where he'd be wanting to defend his title a little bit more. But I feel like right now he's, especially in the position that, of course, like I said, he's in now. I kind of understand in the sense. But then again, he's wanting to find Floyd Mayweather, but he's looking for those big paydays.
Wes, I got a quick question. Give me a quick answer. What is more important, or what is more historically significant? Defending the featherweight championship one time or becoming the first ever person to simultaneously hold two divisions belts?
2 division belts.
Yeah, 2 division belts. So it's not that he doesn't want to defend these belts. Look, man, he fought 3 times in like an 11-month span after becoming the featherweight champion, and then they made him relinquish that belt. It's not about title defenses. Conor McGregor is beyond title defenses. Championship belts are a marketing tool that make people come to watch fights. And I know that obviously this question is coming from Rob, who is obviously not a Conor McGregor fan, but people need to realize Conor McGregor is bigger than UFC championship belts. It doesn't matter if there's a fucking belt on the line or not. His fights are going to sell more than any other fight that the UFC could possibly put on. So this man is out for history. He's out to get eyeballs. And I think that's more significant than a single UFC featherweight title defense. Becoming the first ever person to sit on the side of the cage with 2 belts on his shoulders is way more G-dang important than fighting Frankie Edgar for the featherweight championship. It just is. That's just the case. Now he is He never lost the featherweight championship. He is the lightweight champion. He just got the belt 6 months ago. Give the guy a fucking break. Look, Michael Bisping is going to go 13 months without a title defense. Conor's going 6 without a title defense, and you're all over his McNuggets. Give the guy a damn break. And then also, if this Mayweather thing happens, look, he might get mollywopped. But if think about this, he could go the distance with the greatest boxer in the history of time without a pro boxing career. He's a mixed martial artist. He kicks people. He doesn't just box. He goes over there and he goes the distance with the greatest boxer of all time. That is historically significant and way more important than fighting, way more important to culture, to society, to history, to the UFC, to boxing, to everything than defending the belt against Tony El Cucuy Ferguson or Habib the Eagle Nurmagomedov. So in short, why doesn't he defend belts? He's after historical significance, not promotional tools.
Exactly. I agree with everything you said, man. I think that I know for me, if I could be able to win 2 championship belts, I would love it. And also, kind of going off the Floyd Mayweather thing, I mean, I personally want to see him compete in mixed martial arts because that's where he specializes in, and I enjoy mixed martial arts a little bit more than boxing. Because I like the dynamics. There's more action. I feel like there's more different tools to win. Because that is true. I mean, that's just the way that mixed martial arts is. But I didn't really grow up in. I did watch boxing when I was younger. Trying to get back into it again. And I'm actually going to watch the fight that is this weekend, and I'm looking forward to that. I will go ahead and I guess transition to the next question, unless you have anything else to add.
That sounds good.
So this one comes from Consciousness is God, CIG MMA, and you posted this in here, and I'm not really sure if this is a question, but it says dengue fever.
Dengue fever. Never forget.
Dengue fever, I guess that's how you pronounce it. Can you explain to me what that might mean?
I forget the specifics of it, but John Lineker was scheduled to fight somebody, but he pulled out due to dengue fever. And I believe that dengue fever is life-threatening.
I'm pretty sure it is. Isn't it from like a mosquito bite?
Yeah, it's something like that. It's definitely similar to malaria and such. But yeah, I just put that in there for kind of a funny way to get at closing the show. I thought it was a funny comment, less than a question.
Fewer than 20,000 cases per year, a mosquito-borne viral disease occurring in tropical and subtropical areas. So I guess he maybe spent a little bit too much time at the beach?
I don't think it was legitimate, but I think that is a great way to end the show on a learning note. We had one more comment that came from Alan Christopher Figueroa. It is, what's your take on the co-main and main event for UFC 211? But I'll be talking about those fights next week, so we'll get to them then. Thank you for the comment and question, Alan, but we're going to cover them next week. Let's start closing the show. Wes, where can the listeners follow you and read your work?
So not too much action, of course, has happened recently, but I write over at MMA Sucka, MMAsucka.com. That's where I do. One of my specialties is, of course, matchmaking. I love to think about upcoming fights to make for fighters that have completed, and just kind of I take time to really think in depth about that. So over at MMAsucka.com, you can find some of my writing. On Twitter, social media, you can find me at All That MMA. That's on Twitter. Feel free to follow me on Instagram at Wesley Riddle. I love to share pictures. Besides that, that's it for me, and I appreciate you, of course, always having me on the show. Always a fun time.
Thanks for hanging out with me, Wes. I, of course, am on Twitter at FlyingBrianJ. You can watch my videos at youtube.com/MMAmania.com with the DOT spelled out. You can look at my stuff and hang out with me, chat a little bit on MMA Mania's Facebook page. That is facebook.com/MMA-Mania. And then every social media that you can think of, really. So Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr. What else do I have? Untapped, which is like a craft beer drinking site. Just do /Flyin Brian J, and that's where I will be. Except for Facebook, it's actually Flyin Brian Show. Trying to get that shit changed. What the fuck, Facebook? They won't answer my questions. I don't know how to get a hold of the support team for Facebook. But anyway, that's the show. Thank you so much for listening. Please give this a thumbs up on YouTube, please give us a rating of 1 to 5. And for whatever reason you chose that rating on iTunes, subscribe on SoundCloud, iTunes, soon to be Stitcher. They're giving me some fucking issues too. Anyway, thanks again for listening, guys. And we'll see you on the next episode of Fight Nerds. Namaste.